Okay. You guys hear me okay? Is this on? No, yes? Let me get this. How about now? Is that better? No? There you go. Yeah. I just gotta like swallow the thing. Hello? Can you guys hear me? All right, the benefit of the mic is we record all our lectures, so I want to make sure the audio is coming through. All right? So my name is Dr. Keller, and we're going to be hanging out for the semester. This is Pathology 320, or Bio 320, Pathology. So if you think you're in prehistoric peoples of the Southwest, if you have a few minutes, you can sneak out the back. Okay? I know this is an elective class. It's not required for most of you, unless some of you are dental hygiene. Any dental hygiene students in the room? Okay. Sorry you have to be here. I apologize. But hopefully we'll make it worth your time. So how many of you are taking this as an elective then? Raise your hands. Okay, so this is one of the things I love. Leave them up and look around the room. How many people are choosing to be here? This is one of the things I love the most about this class. Okay? Is a vast majority of you do not have to take it. And it fits with me. I don't actually have to be here. So we're all, for the most part, choosing to be here today, okay, and for the semester. And in essence, we're making a contract with each other that we're going to show up prepared, and we're going to do this semester professionally about pathology. You guys with me? All right, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself here in a minute. But I want to know a little bit about all of you. So I've got a couple of dental hygiene. I got like 97% of the students that are not required to be here. So how many of you are, let's say, pre-med? Okay. How many of you are pre-nursing? Where are the dental hygiene again? Dental hygiene? Okay, I thought there was like 3 or 4. That was it, okay. PT bound, if everything goes well. Okay. Research path, like Ph.D. or something in the sciences. Okay, 2, awesome, fantastic. Here we go, go researchers. Awesome. Let's see, what else? What am I missing? I covered all of you, like most of you didn't raise your hand. What are some of your majors? Biomed? Okay, what are you guys going to do with a biomed degree? What's that? PA school, okay. You're like, I don't know yet, it's sounding cool. Okay. Okay, so we have a diverse classroom. We're going to cover this semester from a number of different perspectives. And one of the values, and we're going to go through a little exercise, and you'll see it in a minute, that's an advantage for us is the diversity that's in this classroom. So not everybody has to be here. We made that clear. Not everybody, contrary to popular opinion, is pre-med or pre-nursing. Okay, those tend to be the most popular guesses, but it's not always the case. And we're going to be looking at the semester mostly through my eyes because I'm lecturing, but I actually do want to hear from you. And the best way for me to hear from you is if you come to class prepared. Now, I'm going to set up how this class is structured so you can see it here in a minute. But the idea is that you really need to do some work before you show up, okay? You need to do some work before you show up so that you can ask intelligent questions. So let me ask this. Are there any dumb questions? No, there's not, but there are questions that are more intelligent than others, okay? So I would rather entertain well thought out questions versus something that, you're just hearing for the first time. And a lot of this material is very complicated. And so the way that we've organized this is rather methodical. So a little bit about me. I've been teaching this class a good 8 solid years at this institution. Okay? I haven't taught it in a year. I took the spring off from teaching. And I'm teaching again this class, and this is my favorite class. This is the only class that I teach. We used to offer this class only 1 day a week, on 2-hour lecture, and contrary to most students' opinion, we actually do read your feedback. Well, not yours, you haven't given me any yet, but your predecessors provide feedback at the end of the semester. And for a few years now, it's been, I like the class a lot, but you know what, a 2-hour lecture is a lot. It'd be nice if we had it maybe twice a week and you separated it out. So that's what we're doing this semester. So if you don't like that idea, you can blame your predecessors rather than me. I was just listening to them, okay? We're going to see how it goes, a little bit of an experiment. The other thing that we have that's based upon your predecessors is we have an SI. I'm going to introduce the SI here in a second. To my knowledge, this is the only 300 level class on, it might not be on campus, but definitely in biology, that offers an SI. Okay, and it might still be the only class. Do you know this statistic? Is it the only class that's 300 that has an SI? There's a chem class that has one, okay. So we were definitely the first 300 that offered an SI, and the reason is a lot of your predecessors said, man, so much material, I'd love to have some SI support. Why can we get some SI support? Well, as the case might be, SIs are typically designated, not exclusively, but designated usually to freshman and sophomore classes, and they're usually a class that has a high DFW rate. Like, what the heck is that? A D, or an F, or a withdrawal. And because you saw the poll of this classroom, it's not a gen ed requirement. Most of you are here on your own. Most of you are professionally bound. You have an idea of what you want to do. And so I tend to get more serious students in this class. So I'll tell you right now, the way the grades are going to shake out, because we've got about 8 years of data. And last year's the only semester I didn't teach it both semesters. And there were years I was teaching it fall, spring, and summer. So a lot of data went into this. Most of you are going to end up getting a B in this class. That's kind of the average grade. And from a bell curve, it's kind of shifted. If this is the bell curve, it kind of shifts this direction. So you'll have a population that gets A's, but a large population that gets B's, smaller population that gets C's, and then very few D's and F's. And so the feedback we got from SI was, well, students don't struggle with your class. The average is getting a B. I said, well, yeah, but don't you want to equip the students that want to learn more with more resources? Why are we putting a Band-Aid on it after it's a problem versus kind of doing it ahead of time? So they agreed, and we've been doing SIs for a couple of years now, and it's been going really well. But it relies on all of you to lean into it. If you don't lean into it, we'll lose that resource, okay? All right, so I've been at the university since 2008, so about 11 years. Prior to that, I was at W.L. Gore & Associates. I worked here at a local medical device company, and I was recruited to Flagstaff to work at Gore about 17 years ago from San Diego. I was working in biotech in San Diego. So I actually came out of industry and then decided about 11 years ago that I wanted to get back to the classroom. And I didn't start teaching this class. I taught all sorts of different classes and eventually kind of landed on this particular class. And this one and A and P were like my two favorites. But about 4 years ago, the university asked me to start a research program here on campus. And so I went off of the heavy teaching load and I set up a research facility on campus. And now I only have one class, and this is the one class that I teach. So either lucky you or sorry for you. This is the only class I teach, and you guys got me, okay? So that's my background. My research is pretty heavy into regenerative medicine type of applications. So we do a lot of wound healing, mostly skin, but all sorts of different tissues that are challenged or diseased or damaged. Wound, joints, bone, cardiac, cardiovascular. I do kind of the standard academic research with NIH grants, NSF grants, and then I'm very heavily involved in research in industry as well. So when I say I teach this because I want to be here, this is the one class that I chose over the years to keep. And there's a lot of other classes that I could be teaching. And I have a heavy research focus, but twice a week, I'm going to make sure that I'm present. Not just physically, but I'm emotionally and I'm mentally present with you all, okay? So my phone's off. I'm not going to be checking, Amazon orders or streaming any kind of content, all right? I'm not going to be hashtagging about how great this class is, hashtag pathology or anything like that. You're going to have my undivided attention for an hour and 15 twice a week, and I'm going to ask the same of you. I know you guys are just as busy, if not busier than I am, but we're going to do this together. Does that make sense? That's kind of the professional courtesy that we're going to give to each other. So you might think that what you're doing on your device isn't distracting you because you're the type of person that can multitask and do 17 things at once really well, and I don't doubt that. What I'm worried about is I'm actually worried about the person behind you. So go ahead and look at the person behind you who is not as capable as you. Go ahead. Okay? Now everybody's looking at the back of their heads, right? And please remember that if you're doing something on your device and they're looking over your shoulder, it could be distracting them from learning. And they're also making a commitment to be here, okay? So pay attention to your surroundings. It's a tight classroom. I know it's warm, okay? Hopefully the snow is coming. We just skipped monsoon, so maybe we'll just get blizzards in September. I don't know. So, we got the fans rolling. I brought my own fan because those don't really angle on me. Whatever you guys need to do, if you need water, if you need, they don't want food and drinks in here, but if it's more water, ice water to kind of keep you cool towels, those ones that are soaked, okay, sweatbands, whatever we need, please bring them on Wednesday, okay? So I did my Ph.D. at the University of Arizona. I grew up in the Valley, so I went basically from Glendale to Tucson, and then to San Diego, and then to Flagstaff, okay? So that's kind of my career history, a little bit about me. Been in town 17 years. My wife and I have 4 daughters. That's right, 4 daughters. Usually I get moans or groans or, So my youngest is 10, and then I have a 13, I have a 15, and I have a 16-year-old. And so 3 of them are at one school here called Northland Prep, and the other one, the youngest, my baby, is at Knowles. So that's a little bit about me, and you will find I'm a total nerd, and I'm proud of it, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun because I love this content, like I said before. Any questions before we kind of get started on the flow of the class? All right, cool. Anybody need to add? Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. Yeah, question.
I was getting this here. You said you do the research here?
Yeah, so I have a research lab on campus, and then I have a private lab off campus. Yep. So I'm over in the Wetah building, my office. It's on the syllabus. My office is 211 in Wetah, and my lab is 202 in Wetah. Okay, so it's second floor, and then kind of towards the north end of the building in that last hallway. All right, so this was just to kind of get your brain started. I know it's the first day of class. It's the beginning of the semester. So tell me, someone raise their hand and give me your favorite on the list of mental word challenges. Yeah, what was your favorite?
19 banana split.
19 banana split. You guys see banana split? I like that one. All right, anybody else have one they love over here?
I like 4.
Read between the lines. Yeah, read between the lines. There's another hand over here. No? Okay, here?
I like settle down, 12.
Number 12, settle down. I like that. How about 13, 1 in a million? I like that one. Pretty good. Number 8, Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, cool. Anybody else?
Square meal.
What's that?
Square meal. Number 6.
Square meal number 6. Not bad. Okay, cool.
Wait, what's number 20?
Number 20. I don't remember that one. I don't remember. Anybody have it? Over the top. It's not cut off. No.
Aimless operation.
Oh, very good. Look at that back there. Nicely done. Endless operation. Wow, gold star. Might be one of our A students. One of our A students. We set it up early. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the textbook. We'll talk about class. We're actually going to get into content this week, or today even, okay? So this is the textbook that I use because it's the 8th edition and it's old like me. And all of my figures come from that textbook. And I know in the bookstore they're selling newer versions of it. You can use a newer version, there's no problem with that. The only thing that we're going to have trouble with is lining up some of the page numbers. And Ryan and I will work through that. Okay, we'll give you, if you go to the announcements, there's actually an 8th and 9th page number conversion for the content. And we will start working on the newer textbook conversion page numbers and post it for you. Okay? If you have the option of buying a digital online code, you actually don't need it. Okay? I'd almost prefer you try to find an 8th or 9th edition used, like on Amazon or eBay, something cheap. Okay, the whole reason for that is I don't want you to have to spend money that's not necessary. There are pre-quizzes and post-quizzes every week, but I built them myself into VB Learn, so you don't need a code to take your exam or your quizzes. Does that make sense? Okay. So we'll walk through that here in a second, as long as the internet cooperates. All right, so there's also a textbook on reserve in the Klein Library, and the first chapter, the PDF of the first chapter is already posted in VB Learn, if you haven't decided which textbook you're buying. So you'll have a few weeks to get your textbook, even if you're buying it from eBay and you need a little time for it to get here. You guys with me? Okay. You'll obviously need VB Learn, login, access. They did change it over the summer, so it has a little bit of a different look and feel. It's kind of like a refreshed view. There is a digital histology DVD that I built that is optional. You don't have to have it. The content that you will need, I will provide to you in the lectures. Okay? But some of you are going to get into this, and you might want more of those images and understand more of what that material is, so you can buy that DVD in the bookstore if you want to. Some of you like to do the 3x5 note cards. Some of you like to put vocabulary, to memorize. There's a lot of vocabulary in this class. Okay? A lot of it is Latin or Greek derived, and we'll walk through some of that. Okay? You may or may not decide to use colored pencils or markers. My classic style is PowerPoint lectures, but there's a lot of white space. And so I want you to be making notes either on your device or print out the notes and make scribbles on top of the paper notes. Okay? That tends to be the best way to do this class. So I lecture from PowerPoints. The PowerPoints are already loaded. You can either print them out like multiple slides per page, or you can just download the PDF and use a PDF writing program, and you can make notes on your device. Okay? However you would like. I write my exams straight from my lectures, which is one of the reasons I record it. So I know if you're like me, a pet peeve that I had when I was sitting where you are is I would get to an exam and there would be questions on content that we actually never covered in lecture. Okay? And then I would get the answer, well, it was in the reading. So, well, okay, but there's like tons of stuff in the reading, and there's only like 50 questions on the exam or 70 questions on the exam. So, because I make the rules now, I can decide that that's not fair. So I'm only going to test you on stuff that we cover in lecture. So if I don't cover it, a challenge is fair. It's like, you know what, Dr. Keller, maybe I don't think we got to that. But guess what? If we go to battle on whether or not we got to it, we actually have a recording of what we covered. Okay? So that it serves two purposes. That's not the reason I did it. I started doing the audio recordings, and then students kept asking, hey, could you video record this, because I want to see what slide you're actually talking about so that I can keep on track. And so that's why we moved to the video recordings. How much time is this class going to take? So what's the magic formula here at the bottom? Adequate study time each week. If it's a 3-credit class, how many hours per week are you going to need to study? Seriously, I heard mumbles. I couldn't make it out. 9 hours of studying? Does that include class or not include class? That's outside of class, okay. Everybody else? 6? Okay, someone's faster than you are. 6. Okay. Everybody else? Do I hear Someone splitting the difference, like 7.5 or something? Okay? The point is it's gonna depend on you, okay? There is a formula that the Board of Regents uses, and it's usually 3 hours per credit hour outside of class. It's usually about what it should take. Okay, so that includes studying, that includes taking exam or quizzes, or doing homework or worksheets or study groups. But that 9 number, that may not be enough for you. You might only need 6. You're gonna need to figure that out. Okay, but in the first phases, there are certain things that we're gonna be doing where you're gonna be required to spend some time with the material outside of class. We have pre-quizzes and post-quizzes, and I'll talk about that. Okay? Another one is SI content. Okay, SI times. So I'm gonna pause here and introduce our SI, Ryan. And Ryan McNeely has taken this class before. He took this class last fall. He did very well in it. He was in my office hours on a regular basis asking questions. He was very diligent about going to SI, and his grade, I think, demonstrated that. Ryan's got a 3.9 GPA as a senior here at NAU. He's also a licensed CNA with over a year of clinical experience under his belt. Probably most importantly in all of that stats is the fact that he knows my style. And you probably understand what I mean by now. Like, there are certain faculty that you take classes from, and you love the content, but then you get to the exam and you're like, I don't know why they chose to ask that question. Like, I studied everything except that question. You know what I mean? So if we have an exam and we only have 50 questions on the exam, there's only 50 questions worth of material that we can choose from. So knowing what is the material and style that I lean towards is important. And so Ryan has that insight. Ryan's very disciplined, he's very bright, he's very hardworking. He has former service here in this country, so we actually owe a lot to Ryan in that regard. So I'd like to introduce Ryan to you to talk a little bit about SI and also talk a little bit about the schedule, which we're probably going to be taking a vote, from what I understand, on what times make the most sense. Okay? So join me in welcoming Ryan.
Well, hello, my name's Ryan. That is my email, rm2435. I'm your supplemental instruction leader for this class. I did take this class a year ago, and I did do well. I'd encourage you all to at least come to 1 or 2 sessions in the beginning so you don't get behind and so you can get those good study habits from the get-go. I hope you've looked over these times, because right now we're going to take a poll. I'm just going to read them out. Please raise your hand if you're actually going to go, or if you possibly can go, because you may change your mind halfway through the semester, all right? That's okay. Reassuring. Monday, 4 to 5. Outstanding. That's a Tuesday, 3 to 4. Tuesday, 4 to 5. Tuesday, 5 to 6. Wednesday, 11 to 12. Twelve to 1. 1 to 2. 4 to 5.
You like the late afternoon.
5 to 6.
Shoot,
Yeah, all right.
that's AM or PM?
You pick. Thursday, 3 to 4. Thursday, 4 to 5. And then 5 to 6. Now with that, next Wednesday I won't be here, but you all will. That's this coming Wednesday. So that first session that SIs traditionally hold will probably be on that Thursday, and it's looking like 4 to 5 or 5 to 6, all right? So that'd be a good time to come in and get that head start. Is anybody dying to have a Friday session? It'd be in the late afternoon, it'd be like 4 to 5 or 5 to 6. I'm sorry, that's not enough.
It's been overruled.
If you have any questions for me, I'll be after class up here somewhere. Come and talk. If you have any questions, email me as well. Okay.
Great, thanks, Ryan. Okay, so SI is a really beneficial resource. Again, the way that this came about was in those student reviews, your predecessors wrote down we really wanted an SI, so I kept asking for it. And finally, they gave us resources. And now I just don't want it to go away because I think it's such a valuable tool for students to have, okay? Especially when we can get someone that had this class before, was successful, understands the whole style thing. Like, I'm not sure I'd focus too much on that. Like, he spent most of his time in lecture talking about this. That's what I would hone in on. He's like, there's 50 questions. We covered 10 different topics. So, he's probably gonna have 5 questions per topic. So that's such a small topic, I don't know if it's gonna make it on the exam. So there is some strategy to studying for the exam. Does that make sense? Kind of figuring out what to study and what not to study. And then the other thing is, you're gonna be exposed to a broad amount of material in the reading before you show up, a broad amount of material on the quiz, which is a pre-quiz. We'll talk about this. You guys all took it, right? I'm just kidding. There was no quiz today. That would have been me. And then we're going to narrow your focus in lecture. Okay, we're going to narrow your focus to just the material that I feel I want to emphasize for the hour and 15 that we have twice a week. And then you're going to finish it up with a post-quiz by Friday. Okay, so let's talk about the traditional class format, okay, which is probably a little bit like today. Okay, it's a hot day, so just kind of show up. You got to be somewhere at a certain time. Congratulations, you found the right room. Okay, you found a seat. There's no assigned seat, so obviously you can move around if you'd like to. I don't take attendance, okay? At this point in time, I'm going to essentially treat you all as professionals and ask you guys to treat me as a professional. So I'm not going to take attendance. If you decide you're not going to come, you don't need to let me know. But I feel like you're really going to miss out on some of the valuable information that we deliver in a lecture format. I understand life does happen. And so if you have to be gone and you're going to miss a lecture and you want to still have that content, then you have the video recordings, and those are going to be posted every week on YouTube where you can download it, okay? So traditional class format is not much preparation. You show up. The first exposure to the material is right here. There's a lot of vocabulary. It'll feel like I'm going very fast. And if it feels like I'm going too fast, it's possibly because you're not spending enough time on the pre-work to get here, where the first exposure, now all of a sudden you're just confused. You don't understand certain words, you don't understand certain meanings, or why we're talking about certain topics. And typically, in my experience, that leads to poor exam performance. So what we've done over the years is we've encouraged students on the front end to do a lot of first class exposure outside of class. So then you come to class with questions, which I want to have. I hopefully get an opportunity to share with you the second time, and you have a better understanding because you've already asked some of your questions on the front end. And then you're out of class, SI, okay? Your study time. I do want you taking the pre and the post quiz independently. It's designed to be taken independently. Are we policing it in any way? No, we're not hijacking your camera on your laptop. I'm not going to be watching you. But what will happen is it's a test bank, so if you're sitting next to somebody near you, you'll get a different sequence or potentially different questions. They're timed quizzes, so you have a limited amount of time. But I do want you to take them by yourself. And the reason for that is to give you a sense of where you're at. Okay? You'll see here when we talk about the syllabus how the class architecture is set up points-wise, but the idea is this should lead to better exam performance. And over the years, I've seen this format work really well. Back in the early years, we called it hybrid class. It went to blended format. It went to all sorts of different buzz names. I just went back to hybrid because I liked it. Okay, so that's the way that we run this class. We'll have a lot of self-study. You'll have pre and post quizzes. You'll have a traditional didactic lecture. So this isn't one of the classes where I come up here and say, pathology, what do you think? Right? Why don't you come up here and tell me what you think? Right? I know I'm supposed to be teaching, so I'm going to teach. You're not going to come for an hour and 15 and we're just going to, get butcher paper out and draw pictures and have you guys talk about how you feel about the content. We're going to have a traditional lecture, okay? And then you're gonna do a lot of this outside class work that's gonna be pointing back to the lecture content, okay? That includes the textbook reading. So there isn't a shortcut on learning material, okay? Newsflash. Over the years, there's all this pedagogical research on how to deliver content, but nothing will substitute for spending time with the material. I don't know how to emphasize that. There's another word for that we used to use in the old days that nobody uses anymore, and it's called studying. Like, you're gonna have to study, okay, if you want to do well in this class. Does that make sense? I don't know, there's no sugarcoating there, that's just the facts, okay? So, do you need to do the reading? Yes. Do you need to do the pre-quiz? Yes. Do you need to come to class and listen to the lecture? Yes. And should you take the post-quiz by the end of the week? Yes. And are you going to have to study before the exam? Yes. Will you do better on the exam if you do all those things? Yes. And if you go to SI, will it improve your score? Yes. Okay, any questions? There's no real secret. It's just going to take some hard work, okay? I'm going to try to make it as interesting and as enjoyable as possible, but there won't be any medium or technology that's going to replace hard work. You guys with me? Okay. Now the same goes for me. I'm under the same obligation. Is I have to put in the prep time if this is going to be a worthwhile lecture. Twice a week. Okay? And so, unless I'm deathly ill, I'm not going to send a grad student here to teach my lecture, unless I have a really big reason that I have to do that. Okay? I will be here, God willing, every Monday and every Wednesday to see all of you. Okay? All right. After the in-class lecture, you got SI sessions, that's your peer interaction, that's your group collaboration. That's going to be led by Ryan. So that's a critical component to how this class works. All right. Before we get to this quote, I have a sort of a custom or a tradition, and we'll start it out on Wednesday at the beginning of the class before we start. But years ago, my kids made the suggestion that they said, "Dad, you know, you're not really funny, even though you think you are. So what you should do is maybe let us help you with some jokes that you can share with the class every time before you lecture, okay? Because you're really not that funny, Dad, but you think you are." So, okay. So my kids wrote me jokes years ago. You can kind of see these 3x5 note cards are a little tattered. And I have quite a few jokes that are not considered dad jokes. Because these are actually kids' jokes that were given to Dad to help me learn how to be humorous. Okay? Are you guys ready to hear a couple? And then we'll get to this quote. Okay, what kind of dog do you find in a bakery? What kind of dog do you find in a bakery? A purebred. Okay. Some of these, this is a while ago, some of these might have been, 5, 6 years of age. Okay. Why do seahorses only like salt water? There are freshwater seahorses, I argue, but they were like, "Dad, come on." Why do seahorses only like salt water? If you're in the biology department, you should know there are freshwater seahorses. Okay. Any answers? Because pepper water makes them sneeze. Okay. All right, last one. What's a frog's favorite kind of flower? A frog's favorite kind of flower. A crocus. Okay. You guys understand that one? That was more plant biology. Sorry, it's not really animal physiology. Okay, let's do this quote. I want you to turn to your neighbor and introduce yourself. Okay? Go with a first name. Ask them which SI session you're going with. You can do a group of 3 if you need to. Don't leave anybody out. nailed the introduction. That was awesome. Totally got the introduction. You guys have some long names because that was a lot of chatter about what your name is. So now do the quote. Turn to your neighbor, do the quote. Don't talk about West Nile and Flagstaff. Talk about the quote. You're like, what? I'm like, I'm serious. Okay? Talk about the quote. I'm going to ask you and your partner or your team, if you have a group of 3, your interpretation of this quote. Okay? It's an old quote. It's actually, nobody knows who gets credit for it. So go ahead and talk about the quote. Some ideas on what that quote means to you. There's not any wrong answers here, so there is on the exam and on the quiz. I don't want you to think it's like one of those kind of classes. Yes.
Well, this is how I see it. Like someone gives you the answer, not gonna know how to do it later or figure it out later or how to find it later.
Okay.
If they showed you, maybe like sentence or maybe like you figure it out yourself.
Perfect. If somebody just gives you the answer, are you going to be able to figure it out in later on your own? No. That was a summary, but is that pretty good? Okay. Another interpretation?
Our funny response for this was cure cancer. Fix a tumor in one case and fix sickness. Like teach the man how to fix his own tumors and cure cancer.
Okay. Yeah, put it in the context of a disease, right? If you can figure out how to help an individual maybe fix their own situation, whether it's a disease state like cancer or diabetes or heart disease, then you might have a bigger impact than just fixing it for that person. Another one? Any other interpretations? Is it not about fishing? I thought it was about fishing. Huh? Not about fishing? There's a lot of interpretations, right? It could be like, if you just hand somebody food, right, you feed them a meal, but have you enabled them to provide more food in the future, right? That's kind of more direct on fishing and food, right? Any other interpretations? Doesn't have to be, I know it's a path class, it's not like I'm only looking for, pathology related answers, right? So the idea here is all of you have sort of different points of view, right? Some of you might be passionate about feeding the hungry, right? This is a quote that a lot of food banks use, right? A lot of shelters, community service types of organizations where, it's like instead of giving a hand out, you give a hand up, right? Where you help enable the individual to help themselves in the future rather than just feeding them today. You teach them maybe, you feed them today, but you teach them something so maybe they can figure out how to feed themselves and their family tomorrow. Okay? Could be about how you learn. It could be how you educate populations to take care of their health. The idea is all of us have different perspectives, and mostly where that's going to come out is going to be in the out-of-class group time, like SI sessions, where you're going to figure out with smaller groups, you'll happen, this is not a small group, we have like 110 of you in here. Okay, this is not a small class. Okay, but what we're trying to do is come up with ways to make it feel smaller, so it doesn't feel like, it's just a giant lecture hall and you just get yelled at twice a week. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about, oops, wrong computer. This computer crashed, so I brought a backup computer. This is online. I'm going to show you in the BB Learn Show where to find it. Everything that you need is in the BB Learn Show. How many of you are familiar with BB Learn? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you are not? Never tried it? Okay. It's pretty straightforward. I can help you in office hours. You can probably talk to one of your classmates, or Ryan can help you in SI session. Okay? But you're going to definitely need to get on BB Learn. You'll see here very quickly, you don't have to get on BB Learn much this week. And then good news, we're taking next week off. Okay? Well, we have Monday off. It's a holiday. And then I'm at a conference Tuesday for the rest of the week. So we're taking the rest of the week off. Okay? All right. I'm not going to send some E-team in here. I'm just going to give you guys the day off. Okay? All right. So you'll find everything that you need in the syllabus, or in the BB Learn shell. Let's go there right now. So this is when you log in. It's going to look like this. Come up, okay? And you're going to click on, your screen will look a little different than mine because mine's like the instructor view, but for the most part it'll look like this. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I can turn this off, and this looks like what yours is going to look like. Okay, so you'll see picture of the textbook. You'll see this first announcement. How many of you guys got the announcement? Raise your hand if you got the email announcement or push to your phone. So I sent out one today that said first class at 2:20. So if that's not enabled or not working for you, you might want to call ITS and find out, because we'll send out little reminders. Ryan and I will send out reminders like SI session is canceled, or my office hours are canceled, or I've added office hours, okay? Or it's like a monster powder day and I'm on the mountains and no class. That could happen, just saying, okay? Go over here to course content. And you're going to see getting started, the syllabus. Here's a copy of the syllabus. And here it is. Let's go ahead and download it. And let's walk through real quick, because I want to get to content. So this is how you'll access it. You can see Ryan's email there. My email is the best way to reach me. The NAU email, please do not message me through BB Learn. Just send me an email to robert.keller@nau.edu. And my last name is with an A, Kellar. You can see my office, 211 is my office in Wetah. I'll be there on Mondays between 11 and noon, always, unless I say otherwise. If you want to make an appointment, I'm happy to make an appointment. I'm on campus other times as well, but that time you can just stop by, okay? You can see where the YouTube link is for the lectures. This one will be posted. All of them will be posted. Keep doing that. And you can see the breakdown here. 2 exams and 1 final. All exams are cumulative, okay? So exam 2 and 3 are cumulative. Exam 1 is just material that we've covered. We'll talk about the cumulative nature after exam 1, because you don't have to worry about it for exam 1. Of course, exam 1 is cumulative. It's everything that we've covered, okay? 100 points each. You can see there's 12 online pre-quizzes. The lowest will be dropped. There's 12 online post-quizzes, and the lowest will be dropped. So I'll give you that freebie. You have a bad week. I know you forget, or you had a concert, or you had a conference, or you just spaced it, whatever. You get 1 freebie on each. You guys with me? So that's your get-out-of-jail-free card. I'm pretty stringent about these things. Here is this grading scale. This is important. I used to ask the class, like, you know, how many of you took A and P from me, and I would recognize faces, but now I don't teach A and P anymore, so this is the first time we've seen each other, although a couple of you do look familiar. I don't know why that is, or maybe I just seen you in the hallway. So 89.5 and up is an A. If you have an 89.49999, what grade is it at the end of the semester? It's a B. Okay, today it's that way. It'll be that way at the end of the semester. Okay, there's no funky curve. It's a straight grading scale, so you know exactly what to expect. Is it possible that every single one of you could get an A in this class? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I feel like that's the fairest grading scale. This is my opinion. Okay, but in this class, that's the opinion that matters the most. So this is what you guys need to pay attention to. Okay? So I'm saying that now because inevitably there'll be people that will be borderline. You're going to ask, is there extra credit? There is no extra credit in the class. That's the fairest way to do it. If I was going to do extra credit, in order to be fair, I'd have to make it available for everybody. Okay, but essentially, as long as everybody knows what's expected of them, that's also the same. It's fair. Okay? So 520 points, you can times it by 0.895. That's the number of points you need to get an A. Take the 520 and multiply it times 0.795, and that's what you need to get a B. It's pretty straight math. Okay? I know we're biologists, so math is complicated, but you can use your phone if you need to make that calculation. Okay? Any questions on the grading scale or expectations on that? Yes?
Going back to your posting video lectures, how often do you post on YouTube? Like, will you post that lecture for that day that night, or is it going to be the next day?
Usually it's that week. I would say always it's that week. Usually it's that evening or the next day. Yeah. Good question. If you go there now, the lectures from a year ago are still there. So I won't take them down, I'll just populate the new ones. Does that make sense? So I'll populate the new ones. So the reason for that, let's look at the schedule. Okay, challenges and fair questions. Or unfair questions. So, you all are professionals. I want you to be able to challenge me in a professional way. Okay, that doesn't mean if there's a test question you don't like, you just go, oh, it's unfair, right? And then like after class, like 17 of you come up here and be like, hey, question 23 was unfair, Dr. Keller. I think you should throw it out. Okay, that's not how this is going to work. The way this is going to work is you're going to present a professional argument as to why you think that quiz or test question was unfair or inaccurate or incorrect. And I might ask you to pull from the literature. And if I'm wrong, because I'm human, I make mistakes. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to admit that I'm wrong. I just learned something. And if you go through the exercise, you learn more. And then you also get this practice of how do I challenge a professional who's in an authority position over me in a respectful way. Does that make sense? So it's actually totally worth the point, in my opinion. It's more about how you do it, whether or not you get the point or not. Okay? So that's how that's going to work. Is if you want to challenge a quiz question or an exam question, I would welcome that because we'll engage in a back and forth, And I'll probably ask you to go either to the textbook or into the literature, primary literature, and pull examples of why you think you're correct and why you think that I'm incorrect. Okay? Perfect example. How many of you are going to be nurses again? Raise your hand. Or are nurses? Going to continue on? Most of you will be working with physicians. That's kind of how that works, right? You think every single time you're going to agree with what the physician says? Probably not. Are you going to need to have a way to engage and say, maybe we should think about this in another way, okay? Or have you considered? Or I was reading in the literature this. I was talking with another doctor about this. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see what I'm getting at? This isn't a, I think you made the wrong diagnosis, right? I think you're messing it up for the patient. I don't think you know what you're doing, right? So that's not, that combative approach isn't going to help you professionally, and it's not going to get you anywhere in this class. But if you want to come forward, and we can do this on email or in person, so that's what that little blurb is about, tricky or, unfair questions. All right, you guys know the deal about academic honesty, so I got to say this stuff. This is taken very seriously at the university. All classes are supposed to cover this. This is the rule. I know not all classes do. By the time you're at this level, usually there's a lot of academic integrity. But I just got to go through it. So plagiarism. If you try to pass anybody else's work off as your own, okay, that's plagiarism. It's not allowed. You can give credit to somebody and cite them, and then that's not plagiarism. Cheating, obviously, don't look at somebody else's test exam. Fabrication, that's basically another way of saying lying. Right? I didn't make the exam because fill in the blank. If it's not true, then that's fabrication. Or fraud, where you're trying to deceive myself or anybody else at the university. These are things the university takes very seriously, so please don't do any of those. Okay. You'll see the schedule. It says tentative, but for the most part, we'll stick with this. Okay, it's divided into kind of 3 units that are divided by these little hash marks. So there's Unit 1, there's Unit 2, and then there's Unit 3. Let me give you a couple of really important dates right now. Everything's already mapped out. All the PowerPoints are in the BB Learn shell. In fact, my recordings from a year ago are already on YouTube. Okay? So yeah, I could just be like, class is done, watch the lecture, take the quizzes, see you guys in December, right? But that's not how we're going to run this class. Okay? We're going to do it de novo, organic, every single time we get together. But if you need to work ahead, okay, this is the beauty. If you need to work ahead, it's already programmed out. You can work ahead. If you know, gosh, at Thanksgiving time, I was going to be gone the whole week because we've got some epic family trip. I get it. I understand that stuff happens. Okay? So look ahead and see what's required of you. That's also being a professional, is to figure out when you're going to be gone and making sure that it's covered. You guys with me? Okay, so look at this week. We've got today and then Wednesday. We're going to get into real content for a little bit today, and then we'll get into heavy content on Wednesday. Labor Day is on Monday. You can see 9-2 on Monday, no class. I'm actually away at a conference. This is a biomaterials conference. Actually, it's my conference. I'm the president of the foundation, so I have to be there. So I'm canceling class on Wednesday, okay? And there's no assignments due next week. And then the week of 9-9, so Monday, we finish up cell injury and death, and we're going to get into acute inflammation. You've got 2 pre-quizzes and 2 post-quizzes that week. If that feels like a lot, next week or this week, you can take one of them. Does that make sense? All of the quizzes for the whole semester are open today. And they all close on their due dates. So you can work ahead. Does that make sense? But once they close, you can't go back. You won't be allowed to open one that's already past due. You with me?
What do they generally do?
So, great question. Pre-quizzes are generally due, and this is in the syllabus, I'll show you, Monday by noon, and post-quizzes are due Friday by 11:59 p.m. Pre-quizzes are generally due Monday by noon, and post-quizzes are due Friday by 11:59 p.m. Once you start it, you have to finish it in that one setting. So once you open it, don't walk away. They're 30-minute quizzes. pre and post. They'll deliver like 5 questions each, open book, open notes, but I want you to do it by yourself. Okay? Pre-quizzes are due by noon on Monday because I want you to take it before you come to class. I would read the material before you take the pre-quiz. I would look at the PowerPoint and maybe try to have both of those open, the book and the PowerPoint, while the quiz is running. That's totally legit. If you're a nurse or a physician and a patient has a diagnosis that you need to make, are you not allowed to look anything up? Of course not. And I know that Dr. Google is widely available, okay? But be very careful about what you Google. Okay, you guys know there's bad information out there. Okay, so Wikipedia has a lot of great information and there's a lot of crap in there. Okay, so you gotta sift through that. I would use your textbook to help weed through what some of that quick find stuff is. So if you're reading the chapter material ahead of time, and then you look at the PowerPoints, right? You might even watch the lecture from last year, and then there's nothing wrong with that, and then take the pre-quiz. You have 30 minutes to answer 5 questions. There's no reason you shouldn't get really good scores, okay? But see what just happened? I just forced you to look at all this material before you show up, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah.
So we have 2 pre-quizzes due the Monday, the 9th, and then the post-quizzes due that Friday of that week.
That's
2 of them.
correct. That's correct. But this week or next week, you could take pre-quiz 1. There's no reason you can't. You could take it well before Monday the 9th. Just take it in one setting, because after 30 minutes it'll close and it'll automatically submit your answers. Okay?
And you need lecture for post-quiz, right?
And then I would wait until after the lecture to do the post-quizzes, in my opinion, because I think you're going to have a little bit more time with the material, or you have an SI session, and then you take the post-quiz. Does that make sense? You can play around with it. Again, you have one freebie. You know, it's like you have one freebie where if you get, your lowest score will get dropped. Okay, so then you can see the week of the 30th, we've got our exam 1, and there's no assignments due that week. Even though we have a lecture on Monday, we have an exam on Wednesday. And if you look at the second unit, you can see pretty straight schedule. Okay, runs through the week of 11/4. That's exam 2 on Monday, November 4th. And then we've got a lecture on Wednesday on renal, but there's no pre or post quiz that week because you have an exam. There's the last day to drop at the W, just in case those of you that are paying attention to that. So the nice thing there is you'll have at least an exam underneath your belt, so you can kind of judge with pre and post quizzes. You can judge where you are. Does that make sense? Then you can look at the last unit, and this is important because we got Thanksgiving here, Veterans Day. So Veterans Week, I don't have another reason to be out of town, so we'll have Veterans Day off, and then Wednesday we'll have class. And then Thanksgiving week, we won't have class on Wednesday. Okay, we will have class on Monday, but we won't have class on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I know it's usually a heavy travel day, and we have an afternoon lecture. Okay? Well, we will have class on Monday, but if you're like doing, you know, Thanksgiving in Antigua with the family, congratulations, and you're leaving on Monday, then you can do all your work ahead of time. You with me? Okay. Final exams according to the final exams scheduled by the university. All faculty are supposed to follow this, although I don't know if everybody does. So we are scheduled on Tuesday, December 10th from 3 to 5 p.m. It'll be in this room, but it's not on a Monday or Wednesday. It's on Tuesday. So please don't email me like the week of the exam and say, oh gosh, I have a flight out on the 9th. Can I take my final before I leave? It's like, wait a second. I told you when the final was like the first day of class. Okay, so don't book your flight for the 9th. Book your flight for after 5 p.m. Okay? You guys with me? Okay. Questions? Keeps throwing me off. Okay, here's your information that was asked earlier. Generally, noon on Monday for the pre-quizzes, and then 11:59 p.m. That's at night, 11:59, like right before midnight on Friday. I'm basically, I mean, if you already went out for the evening, you're like, oh crap, I'll be right back. Like, just disappear for 30 minutes and then go back to your bowling activities. Okay? Yeah.
So like if you started at 11:50, so will it give you 30 full minutes after midnight, or will it kick you off?
I believe the way it used to work is as long as you initiated it before it was due, it would let you finish. But they just revamped Ph.D. Learn, so I don't know the answer to it now. So my suggestion would be, give yourself enough time to take the exam, or the quiz, okay? So do like 11:30, okay? Maybe make an internal. I don't know the answer to that. I guarantee you we'll find out this semester. Somebody will be out and about and remember at like 1:45 oh crap, I forgot to take my post quiz. You know, you'll slip away with your phone, do your 5 questions real quick, and I'll find out the answer, you know, probably on Saturday morning, because I'm asleep by that time. Okay. Okay, any questions on the syllabus or Ph.D. Learn? So if you go to course content, and you go to this tab here that says weekly tasks, lectures, and pre-quizzes and post-quizzes, it couldn't be more clear. And then you go to week 1, okay? There's the 2 lectures that's happening this week. And there's no quiz in there. So if you go to week 2, it'll be pretty empty because we have the week off. If you go to week 3, now you're going to see a bunch of content. Right? We still have cell injury and death. We've got acute and chronic inflammation. Here's your 2 pre-quizzes. Okay, it already says do 9:09 by noon. And then here's your 2 post-quizzes, do 9:13 by 11:59 p.m. So if you go to those folders, you'll find everything that you need. Does that make sense? Okay. Questions? Okay, I can't emphasize enough that I want you to form these study groups. Okay, this is me pleading with you. Okay? What I want you to do right now, we're going to get into a little bit of content in the remaining minutes. I want you guys to define pathology and epidemiology. Carve it out. One of you define pathology, the other one define epidemiology. In your little groups that you just made.
Epidemiology sounds like right. I was like, wait, I'm trying to think of like the first time.
Okay. Oh, really? Do I have a volunteer to define pathology? Pathology. Any takers?
Like the study of like malfunction of health.
Study of malfunction of health. Not bad. I like that. It's pretty good.
So it's gonna have more to do with the cause and effect of disease.
Cause and effect of disease. Okay. Malfunction, cause and effect of disease. Anybody else? These are all pretty good answers. I wouldn't say no to either of those.
It's the study of the path, literally, so the sequence in which things break down, or the sequence of
Okay.
what's happening.
So maybe a chain of events of how the disease started and how it manifests. Like that? Anybody else? So those are all really good. We'll talk about breaking down a little bit. Literally, it translates as the study of suffering or the study of disease. Okay? That's how it translates, pathology. is the study of suffering or the study of disease. But all of these are elements. And trust me, I mean, I'll tell you if you're wrong. I'll just say, no, sorry, that's wrong. Okay, so those are all aspects of a disease state. How about epidemiology? That's a big $50 word, isn't it?
The study of the spread of disease.
The study of the spread of disease, okay? Maybe from one geographical area to another. Anybody else? Okay, so epidemiology's definition is the study of factors and illnesses of populations. So as the disease spreads from one population to another, which is exactly really what was said before, that's epidemiology. So you're looking at how maybe malaria is migrating through different countries, okay? Or how West Nile is spreading throughout northern Arizona, okay? Okay, I want you guys to jot down 5 diseases. Just write down 5 diseases. Now keep in mind that the term disease broadly refers to any condition that impairs normal function. Often it is referring to like infectious diseases, okay? Or an illness or a sickness are usually synonyms for disease. In contrast, disorder is usually a functional abnormality or disturbance. Like some are physical, some are genetic, some are mental disorders. Disease is often caused by viruses, okay, or fungal, or bacterial. See if you can write down the primary organ system that is affected by that disease, or that disease compromises. Primary organ system. Like if I said asthma, primary organ system would be what? Lungs or respiratory. Exactly. Oh, you took mine. Well, give me 4 others. Oftentimes I'll have you guys switch lists and try to name the organ system from your partner, but for time's sake, let's just share a couple of examples. You can just shout them out. Diseases. Arthritis. Okay? We'll cover that one this semester. Alzheimer's. We'll cover that one at the end of the semester. What's that? Legionella? Yeah, we won't cover that one, but that's an interesting disease. What else? Salmonella. Okay. We won't cover that one. Often in food poisoning. What else? Rabies. Yeah. Rabies. We won't cover that one either. But that's an interesting disease. Chagas. We won't cover that one. Celiac disease. Okay, we might touch on that, aspects of celiacs. Anybody in the back?
Diphtheria.
You guys are disease-free back there? These guys have all the issues? How about diabetes?
Diphtheria.
Diphtheria? Asthma? Hypertension? Gonorrhea? Oh, wow, we went there. All right. Let's move on. Okay, so what you can see is we could sit here and name off diseases, especially that we brought up gonorrhea. They go all sorts of different directions. Now, we could do that for hours. This is a general pathology class. So if your pet disease doesn't get covered this semester, I apologize in advance. The point is, we're trying to give you a broad exposure through many multiple systems, and we're going to cover some of the top diseases that happen in each of these organ systems, like renal failure, okay? Cirrhotic liver. We will look at asthma and respiratory disease, COPD, okay? Bronchitis. We won't have time for every single disease under the sun, but hopefully you'll have enough interest in what we covered in tools that you'll be able to figure out, how do I want to research that on my own? Now I got the tools to go find good information from this class, and I can learn how to adopt it into finding details about some of these other diseases like rabies, which is actually a problem in Flagstaff. We have a large population of wild animals, and every now and then you get a rabid skunk or squirrel or raccoon or even the family dog. Okay, back to disease. 4 aspects of pathology, and this is where we're going to end for today, okay, after this slide. And then I'll introduce one of our first diseases that we'll pick up on Wednesday with. But the 4 aspects of pathology that some of you were mentioning, and you might think, oh, he's just being nice, saying, oh yeah, you're right, and you're right, and you're right. Everybody's right, nobody's wrong. No, I will tell you when you're not right. I'll try to do it nicely, but I don't want to mislead you, okay? But 4 aspects of pathology: etiology, pathogenesis, morphological alterations, and clinical significance. And some of you, like yours up in the front here, you were talking about pathogenesis, okay? So etiology is the study of causation. Etiology, how it was caused, what happened in the beginning. It's from the Greek word that means giving a reason for. Etiology, giving a reason for. Where did it start? What happened? And what was the cause? And then pathogenesis. This is yours up front. This is the mechanism by which the disease is propagated. Okay? How it advances. How does somebody go from a tumor to a metastatic lesion or cancer that's spread into the bone? Right? What's that pathogenesis? Now we get into the 3rd category, which is morphological alterations. We're going to see that there are macro changes that happen in the tissue. Macro meaning you can see them grossly with an unaided eye. You can look at the tissue on autopsy, you'll be able to see, oh, the liver is way too big. It's way too heavy, okay? It looks odd shaped. These are all macro alterations, okay? And then micro, under a microscope. And we're going to see these in the very beginning of the lecture on Monday. I'm going to give you an example that we'll start immediately with on all of these 4 pieces of pathology. And then the last one, which is arguably, for many of you, the most interesting, is the clinical significance. This is the who cares. This is the, what does this mean for the patient? Okay? If you have a cirrhotic liver, what happens to liver function? So these 4 things make up pathology. And that's what we're going to look at, all 4 of these throughout the entire semester. With each disease that we walk through, we will probably touch on all 4 of these. We'll look at what happened, where to begin, how did it propagate, what are the macro changes to the organ, what are the microscopic alterations, and then what's the who cares? Okay? What does this mean clinically to the patient? So, Wednesday, please come prepared. Go ahead and look forward. There's like 8, 9 more slides in this deck. Read those. You don't have any assignment, but Wednesday you could come very prepared on Barrett esophagus. Okay? That's our disease that we're going to look at starting on Wednesday. Okay? See you guys Wednesday.